India bid a final farewell to Dr. Manmohan Singh, who has been vindicated in his death when he said history would be much kinder to him than either the media or the opposition had been to him when he was Prime Minister. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. Our very special panel is ready to talk about the politics that have erupted around Dr. Singh's death. And unfortunately, even in this last moment, the two major political parties are squabbling. Rahul Gandhi has said that it has been totally insulting. I'm quoting him here, totally insulting in the way the Modi government has treated the last rites of India's former Prime Minister. And the BJP has accused the Congress of playing petty politics even at this moment, this tragic moment when a country has come together to mourn Dr. Singh. I want to introduce our panel today. Joining us is Rashid Kidwai, veteran journalist and author, a prolific author, in fact, somebody who knows in particular not just politics, but the Congress party like the back of his hand. Sandeep Ghosh, political analyst, is with us, a supporter of the Prime Minister, sometimes a qualified critic of the BJP. It's always interesting to see what position he may take next. Shubhrashta is with us, a political analyst with a fierce mind of her own. Always a pleasure to have you with us. And Dr. Manisha Priyam is with us. And as you can see, she is out somewhere in her car, which is why we hope that her network stays with us. Thank you very much, all of you. As I said, there are two questions really to talk about today. One, was Dr. Singh one of India's most underrated prime ministers? And two, how are we in a position when, just like it seemed that there was a rare moment of unity, that Manmohan Singh was being called the great unifier in his death, everybody coming together to mourn the passing of this very distinguished technocrat turned politician, a self-made man. Politics has erupted. Rahul Gandhi has targeted the Modi government over the last rites of Dr. Manmohan Singh. Rashid Kidwai, I'll start with you. What's actually, before we come to Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy, could we just mute Dr. Priyam? I'm not able to actually hear anybody else then. Rashid, I'll start with you. Why is Rahul Gandhi, as late as just a couple of hours ago, saying that it's totally insulting the way the Modi government has behaved? The fight was over where the last rites should take place. The Congress felt that it should be at the place where the memorial will be built. The center says the memorial will come up, but a trust is needed. But for Rahul Gandhi to do a kind of frontline attack, this is not some mid-level Congress leader. It's coming right from the top, targeting the Modi government directly. What's actually going on here?
So, Barkha, I think Rahul Gandhi has a strong view on this because, Barkha, as we have seen in many contentious political issues, political parties say that they have, they have arrived at some kind of consensus, but when it comes to their own conduct, they always sort of cross the line. For instance, they say that in Parliament several times, whenever there was the 50th year of independence and all, the resolutions were passed that nobody will go to the well of the house, etc. Similarly, when it comes to having, building memorials and taking some kind of land, etc., there is a sort of, I think in 2012 or 13, there was some kind of understanding was there that there will not be any more memorial in the Raj Ghat area. But extraordinary situations demand extraordinary action and all. I wish everyone whoever is in political life a very very long life, but then politicians would someday or other, like other mortals, they would die. Now what happens to them? So there is a kind of, Gandhiji has a place in history, and Indira Gandhi, and even for that matter Sanjay Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Charan Singh, several other are there. What about those who arrived, sort of late in the year 2000 and became big leaders? So I don't want to take names, but so what happens to them? So I think it is something that political parties are not prepared to accept a norm that no more memorials. And I think what Rahul Gandhi is saying is a pointer in that direction, that it would have been befitting for a nation to have some kind of memorial in memory of.
But Rashid, the center has very clearly issued a statement saying that this memorial will be set up. And it is clarified this
will be is a very different thing. When you see today there is a sense of grief, sense of loss is there today. It will not be there in, like, say, 6 months or a year after. I mean, it's all there, very well documented. When Rajiv Gandhi died, and died in a very unfortunate and a very tragic circumstances, very young, he was very young. And what happened was, then, thousands of, actually trees were cut. There was a whole colony, unauthorized colony, that had to be shifted. And who did it? It was Subramanian Swamy who did it, because there was some issue was there relating to where Rajiv Gandhi's last rite needed to be performed. I remember Charan Singh's time there was a big, I mean, drama is a very wrong word to use, but now when we look back, it looks like a drama. So it's not a first of its kind. Maybe Dr. Manmohan Singh's family would not have anything to do with it, but political parties have a view and have a sentiment also. And Manmohan Singh was I mean, one personality whose sort of support was, there were a lot of, Barka, me and millions of people who would not agree with Congress, who may not vote for Congress, but saw a lot of, considered Dr. Manmohan Singh as an iconic figure. So they perhaps expected some kind of gesture, some swift, action. Mr. Modi's government is capable of doing all this, but it didn't do.
Okay. Sandeep, it's unfortunate that, I was speaking with Neerja Chaudhary, and she's the one who used this phrase that Manmohan Singh has emerged as the great unifier in this moment of his passing. And it seemed that political civility had returned to our public life, at least for a few hours. But here we are, with words like totally insulting. And this is not by Jairam Ramesh or Navjot Singh Sidhu, which is the level at which it was being articulated yesterday. This is being articulated by Rahul Gandhi himself. Now, Prime Minister Modi has led many of the tributes. A state funeral, of course, as is befitting, has been given to Dr. Manmohan Singh. I remember the time when Narendra Modi went and sought Dr. Manmohan Singh's guidance when he first won, in 2014. What do you make of the fact that we're back to the political ugliness? Like, even one day, we haven't been able to see our major political parties agree on how a man should be mourned.
But we have tackled in a very short time many issues have come up, and Rashid has put a whole spectrum of them. Now, first of all, without again sounding petty, I can only quote people. Somebody said very aptly, I believe in a program yesterday, which Sheila Bhatt quoted in her tweet today, that Congress cannot try to own Manmohan Singh while disowning Narasimha Rao. Okay, so it's quite rich of Rahul Gandhi to make this kind of a comment about what kind of treatment or insult, etc., is being meted out to Manmohan Singh, be that as it may. Second point, what Rashid is saying, that if we have to assign places to everybody, in that case, either the government should now take up some place, because we are going to have many prime ministers, and you cannot assure that each prime minister is going to last 10 years or 20 years in that tenure, so that it's not a question. You could be having many more. So either you create a place like a national Arlington National Cemetery or something, where you know that, okay, people find a place there. Otherwise, I think these are really issues of taking political pot shots, and especially as the government has clarified the position, and I think it's a very reasonable position there to say that, okay, we have given the full state honors. It's not that people have ignored like the what you call the 24 Akbar Road gates were closed. When Narasimha Rao's cottage was passing, he was not allowed to go in. It was nothing of that kind, which has been done. So this is, I think, trying to make, and Rahul Gandhi himself walking there casually in a t-shirt, whereas as somebody pointed out, he goes for having a cup of tea in Cambridge wearing a bandgala or a bespoke suit somewhere else, and you're talking of respect to Manmohan Singh or not. Now, coming back to where you started, and I have written about this, Manmohan Singh has said that history would be kinder to him. I personally think even by history, the present has been very kind to him. We must make a distinction between, as you also use the word which I used in the obits I wrote. Manmohan Singh is perhaps the first and the only technocrat prime minister which the country has had. And certainly you cannot take away the credit for everything that he has done. Being a prime minister for 10 years, being before that a finance minister, and all the positions, his contribution is immense. But I think we use Manmohan Singh, the credit we try to give him or not take away from him, and use him as a political, I think he becomes a convenient political tool for people to fire from his shoulders or at him to score their individual political points. Manmohan Singh's will be, I can quite relate to him because I am a career professional. He was a career bureaucrat or a technocrat. So, and he has done a great job. It is just like, you have people in the corporate world who do a fantastic job leading a corporation, and they're remembered as one of the greatest CEOs of that organization, etc. But that's very different from what a Dhirubhai Ambani will be remembered for Reliance, or a Ratan Tata would be remembered for. So there is a distinction between a mass leader, a grassroots leader, and somebody who has taken that position in an executive position and done it. Now, I have written without any disrespect to Manmohan Singh. Okay, his contribution as a so-called, as a technocrat, as a CEO is unquestionable. You can give him a lot of credit. But when you talk of a leader, quote unquote, does he come through? Could he have mobilized, say, the country if there was a Kargil, or whether there was another COVID? Did he have that kind of charisma? You don't have to be charismatic always like Obama or somebody, but did he have that kind of a mass connect? So is that kind of sentiments which we are talking about? We are talking about two parties. Congress is very conveniently now trying to own him and trying to prop him against various other people. With the same Congress, when you had a person who had a mass following like Narasimha Rao, you just consigned him to the dustbins of history, so to speak. And you're talking about history here.
Let me take this to Dr. Priyam. Of course, it's disputable and debatable whether Dr. Manmohan Singh was any less impactful on the global stage, even with his more self-effacing personality, than the Prime Minister today is in his much more flamboyant personality. I think the point I'm trying to make is you can have different kinds of personalities, but still have big impact, and to each his own, and both have furthered the India story in their own way. And that is what I think we as Indians should be concerned with. But I think you raise a very important point about the Congress and Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy. And here I want to bring in Dr. Manisha Priyam, because, whether it's a Montek Singh Ahluwalia or others, there is no doubt that when Rahul Gandhi famously tore up an ordinance that was meant to protect Lalu Prasad Yadav, a decision taken at a meeting where Rahul Gandhi's own mother had signed off on that decision. And I remember this so well because it was Dr. Manmohan Singh's last trip to America, last foreign trip. And he did this, Dr. Priyam, while Dr. Manmohan Singh was abroad. It has now been revealed that Rahul Gandhi has subsequently apologized to Dr. Manmohan Singh in private. But critics of the Congress will keep saying the Congress never respected Dr. Manmohan Singh. The Gandhis were the real power behind the throne. That disrespect to Dr. Manmohan Singh didn't just start with the opposition or the media. It started from within the Congress party. How do you look back at this, especially contextualized in today's ugly fight over his last rites?
So look at the long question you have. I'd like to parse this into 2 or 3 clear positions. One is Dr. Manmohan Singh's role in India's history. And I would say Dr. Manmohan Singh's role in India's economic history. And the time when the Congress party was the leader of a one-party dominant system, very common in third world countries, led by a Nehruvian model of non-alignment, one way of how India would engage with the world on its own terms. Now look at the fact that under Dr. Manmohan Singh, you make a clear and sharp U-turn. You debunk that. When he does that, by the time the USSR has fallen, there is a Gorbachev who's already done restructuring, perestroika, and openness. We did not lack in openness. Our democracy was and continues to be robust. But what we lacked was really the ambassador model, the fact that nationalization was all along. Now, the fact that Manmohan Singh actually took away the steel type structures of nationalization without ever politically lambasting the Congress or Indira Gandhi or political figure for it. Much of what the Congress had been, lambasted for politically, the fact that there had been riots against the Sikhs, Dr. Manmohan Singh was also a face who was allowing the Congress in a way to atone for the sins of 1984. And I would, of course, bring, to book the fact that India's economic history was something that he rewrote, and he rewrote it not just for us, but for the world. He put India on a map where India can say that we are, or we can even compete with China. Now that brings to the book the name that you took, Montague Singh Ahluwalia, in the 70s at Oxford. Richard Jolly and others, along with Montague Singh, were writing papers that was saying that poverty needs to be put first. A lot of people before me have said, oh, Dr. Manmohan Singh was a technocrat, maybe not a mass leader. Remember, a mass leader is not just made by populist appeals. Here was a man who realized that the state system needs to be focused on redistribution. And it was Montague Singh Ahluwalia's papers with Richard Jolly and Singer and others that lead the World Bank to what is now known as the McNamara Revolution. The World Bank earlier built bridges and railways, etc., infrastructure. It believes, therefore, that we need a more humane world. We need a world where poverty removal becomes the focus. And remember, Manmohan Singh's ideas are being critiqued but backed also by someone called Amartya Sen. A whole revolution takes place in international development where human development becomes center stage. And Manmohan Singh quietly puts the pen. Where in the world have you seen a non-violent revolution without building oligarchs that leads to an opening up of Indian economy? By the stroke of a pen, decisions were taken that open up and liberalize. Do not forget those rigmaroles at the customs where your relatives and people, officers would be snatching America-made pens, cutlery, utensils. Now we became a globalized nation without losing the face that we had for India. We are a poor country. We are trying to progress. Before I conclude, let me also tell you, one of his most important roles was as the chairperson of the UGC. Few people would know that this man burning the midnight oil gave us a model where a small Guru Nanak Dev University today almost competes with the best in the world. Those of us who have heard of the Thapar Engineering College, the Punjabis who are known more for the industriousness and their business orientation, got some of their world-class institutions because of the way in which he persevered with the small of the architectonic and state-led restructuring is what Manmohan Singh was as a political leader. You want to call him a mass leader? I would certainly call him a mass leader. The fact that all of us have leather chappals rather than Hawaii chappals on our feet, I think that is the Manmohan revolution. Without building oligarchs, without stashing away money in foreign havens, a liberal democratic revolution to a path of economic liberalization. That's Dr. Manmohan Singh for us.
Okay, that's a very interesting idea to take forward to Shubhrasta, which is that how do you define who's a mass leader? Manmohan Singh contested one Lok Sabha election in his entire political career, and he lost that. There are some views that he was sabotaged from within the Congress party, and that debate will carry on for people like Rashid to document in their next book, if they haven't already done so. But Dr. Priyam raises a very interesting question. Is a mass leader defined only by elections? Is it defined by a certain in-your-face charisma? Because Manmohan Singh in many ways was a counterfoil personality to not just to Prime Minister Modi, but also to an Indira Gandhi, right? Even to other leaders within his own party. So this is not a BJP Congress argument. But I think what Dr. Priyam is arguing is that the structural impact that he had on India was that of a mass leader. And that has to be acknowledged. And today the Congress is saying, oh, the BJP has failed to recognize or honor Dr. Singh's moment in history. And Congress critics are saying, but you never did it either.
So, Barkha, I rarely disagree with Manisha ji, and I completely agree with her on the larger argument that she's making. But just on the terminology of a mass leader, I disagree with her a bit. Look, one cannot take away the fact that Dr. Manmohan Singh was one of the best economic minds that India has had. And everything that Dr. Manisha talked about, or even when Sandeep ji was talking about, all of those achievements are there for history to judge him. As youngsters, we remember those days also, and I think it's completely undebatable. Let's keep that out of the picture. Now, on the criticism that the BJP continues to sort of embark on the Congress party, and also a section keeps talking about the misses of Dr. Manmohan Singh as well. I think today is not the day to actually discuss that, because we all come from a culture where we spare the deceased. However, if one were to look at his tenure objectively, of course, there were a lot of hits that Manmohan Singh ji gave. And why I disagree with him being a mass leader is because as a mass leader, he was also supposed to address some of the key questions that most of the leaders even today fail to address. For example, Muzaffarnagar riots happened during his time. He was rarely out in the media discussing that. Again, one wouldn't want to go down the route of why Manmohan Singh was, while he was a very quiet and a silent personality, but he did a lot of those things. However, let's be objective and say that there was a Manmohan Singh moment that India had, which was absolutely necessary. Today, there is a Modi moment that India has, which is absolutely necessary too. And why compare the two? At the end of the day, say 50 years down the line, we are going to look back on Manmohan era with a lot of fondness, and same goes for Mr. Modi, because at the end of the day, both of them are working for the nation in their own right. If today we are able to talk about the corporate India with such vigor, it is thanks to Dr. Manmohan Singh. And this has nothing to do with his prime ministership, by the way. This has to do a lot with what he had done in the past as finance minister as well. Definitely, he was an intellectual leader. People like us who would want to see a lot of intellectual blood in politics get really, pumped up with the idea of a lot of Manmohan Singhs in the country rising up to the occasion. So, of course, that is this day is also a day where we should venerate that kind of an intellectual leadership as well. So, just on that point of a mass leadership, yes, he did a lot for the masses. There's no doubt about that. Some of the policies that came out of Manmohan Singh ji's time are policies that are going to continue with the India story for a really, really long time. But I would hold my thoughts on calling him a mass leader. And yeah. I would want to submit, Barkha, that not everybody needs to please the masses. Sometimes at testing situations, you need to take decisions which are not palatable to the masses but might benefit the masses in the long run. If we go back to the time when Manmohan Singh was the finance minister, I'm sure the kind of criticism that would have come from within the ranks, not just within the Congress party, but the ideological atmosphere that India has had, would have been humongous.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rashid, I think Pratap Bhanu Mehta called it the furies of populism. Separately, I was saying that we have to remember that Dr. Manmohan Singh's second term, while of course there will continue to be debates over whether he was too silent, the corruption scandals that seem to dominate the headlines every day. It also coincided with the rise of an extremely populist India against corruption, not yet the Aam Aadmi Party. It also coincided with the explosion of multiple private news channels who were what I call noisily populist, determining who was good and who was bad, who was honest and who was dishonest. But my question is this. We can have an academic discussion. Was he a mass leader? Was he not a mass leader? We all agree that he had a deep impact on India. I think there are no two ways about that. But that he did not get his due, which is something obviously he believed, whether it is when he's reciting Iqbal and Sushma Swaraj is laughing in parliament, or whether it's when he's saying history will be kinder to me. He always felt that he was vilified by the media, by the opposition, and perhaps he felt that he was not fully treated right by his own party. So when Sandeep quotes this comment that the Congress can't own Manmohan Singh while disowning Narasimha Rao, what would you say?
I think, Barkha, over the years that we have had the kind of politics we have had since 2014, we tend to gloss over the past in the sense of what is intra-party democracy or intra-party developments that have taken place. Since you credit me with this knowing of a thing or two about the Congress, I can go on saying how Nehru faced a lot of internal challenges even as Prime Minister, from Pushpendra Das Tandon, from various groups and leaders, and so was Indira Gandhi with the regional satraps and Rajiv Gandhi. You saw a lot of it. It is only that 2014 onwards we see the ruling party, there is a sort of silence, and a complete silence and complete submission to a leader. Manmohan Singh, to my mind, was a very successful politician. There were 4 prime ministers where he worked as a technocrat under Charan Singh, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, and Chandrasekhar. Imagine he was the chief economic advisor to Chandrasekhar when Narasimha Rao appoints him as finance minister. Sitaram Kesri ji, a person of very different kind of background, appoints him as a member of Congress Working Committee. Before that, Manmohan Singh was there as a virtue of a cabinet minister, but not as a politician. Sonia Gandhi appoints him as a prime minister. Now you have, these kind of 7 characters who are very, very diverse, and Manmohan Singh remains a very, favorite person, and he gets best of it. You look at life and times of Arjun Singh, Pranab Mukherjee, Sharad Pawar, not to talk of likes of Shivraj Patil and several others. They were all had a dying, ambition to become prime minister. They could not. Manmohan Singh did become. Now you're talking about him being insulted. There was no insult. First of all, I want to, with due respect, I want to clarify, and because it's very well documented, Rahul did not do that ordinance. You have that footage. There is nowhere. The footage that is shown is in public meeting, and he's carrying a party manifesto of a political party.
But he is metaphorically, I should be accurate.
And
he
what
is
was
metaphorically
that?
tearing an ordinance, not the actual ordinance.
Since I have a benefit of having conversation with Dr. Manmohan Singh in September itself, this year September and earlier, on all these things when he was out of power. See, what was the issue? The ordinance was that people who are being convicted by law, they should not be allowed to contest. Now there was a pressure from Lalu Yadav and several other allies and within the Congress that there should be an ordinance so that to protect them. Was that a kind of a very dear piece of legislation for Dr. Manmohan Singh? The answer is no. So whatever Rahul Gandhi did, in whichever way he did, was actually, end of the day, it benefited Manmohan Singh. And of course, it was very public that Rahul Gandhi had gone and apologized the manner in which it was done. So it's not something it is hidden. See, Barka, we must remember, which I have written in one of the obits I wrote about Manmohan Singh. Manmohan Singh's, when Manmohan Singh was leaving World Bank and to come to India and work for Government of India, his professor was, or his superior was very sort of surprised. He says, don't you think it is very foolish? And then he paused. Manmohan Singh, of course, didn't respond. Then what did the professor say? He says, sometimes it is wise to be foolish. So Manmohan Singh, within Congress, in the context of Pranab Mukherjee and that kind of battle of supremacy that Arjun Singh and several others had unleashed, see, he was a very successful politician. And that is where I'm saying we can go on talking about his economic. See, of course, he faced challenges within Congress, but he was, he always put his self-respect and self-pride at stake to get that concession out. And we saw a nuclear deal. We saw it, during the Harshad Mehta scandal, where he had resigned. Several occasions, 5-6 occasions, he had resigned as a finance minister, and as a prime minister, he contemplated. But he used it very judiciously. He didn't follow the
so you
like
believe
Nandal Bhaugna and others. So he was a politician among politicians. And Barka, we must, we tend to ignore his politics. And of course, the kind of respect that he gained. See, Sonia Gandhi was in awe of him, not the other way around. See, none of his family members, 3 daughters, 3 son-in-laws, grandchildren, you show me one picture of Mrs. Gurcharan Kaur or any of this family member going and wishing Sonia Gandhi on her birthday. This is a very social location. Nothing of this was not like Gandhi Jal Singh, who became president. He said, "I'll sweep floor if Indira Gandhi asked me to." So Manmohan Singh maintained his dignity, self-respect, and all that, and that is why we have a lot of respect for him.
I think that last point is a very interesting point, Sandeep, that certainly Manmohan Singh's family displayed no sycophancy vis-a-vis the Gandhis. And I think that point must be acknowledged. They also didn't brandish any sort of importance or VIP privileges for being Dr. Singh's family. All 3 of his daughters are professionals in different fields. And all of that has to be, of course, acknowledged. But the idea of Manmohan Singh as a consummate politician is a very interesting one. Whether we agree or not on the mass leader, how do you define a mass leader? The nuclear deal moment. And, in many ways, it's quite interesting. There are 2 or 3 things that the Modi government has gone big with in picking up where the Congress left off. The Indo-US relationship, Aadhaar and digitization. These are things that were birthed in some ways by Manmohan Singh. But Rashid makes the interesting point about that Indo-US nuclear deal. He was stubborn. He was willing to lose his government on it. Sonia Gandhi was not a fan of the deal. It was purely Manmohan Singh. He had to face a confidence motion. He had to get the support of, parties, smaller regional parties, and he did that. It wasn't the Gandhis who did it for him.
And the BJP and left came together. And the BJP and left came together to vote against him.
Barkha, I'm a bit lost as to what we are arguing about here. I don't think there is, any disagreement on most issues. I would only paraphrase Rashid said, Manmohan Singh, politicians. I have written, stealing the phrase used about Gandhi. I said whether Manmohan Singh was a politician among bureaucrats or a bureaucrat among politicians is something which, that is what posterity will decide. But that apart, I have said that somebody who has been a prime minister for 10 years, in whatever capacity, he has held the thing. It's no mean achievement. And before that, the whole string of other positions, including the finance minister, RBI governorship, etc., etc. Manisha Priyam cited about UGC, somewhere else I was reading, ISRO, and a whole host of things. That's fantastic. And the point I think which we are debating is that whether, and each prime minister, nobody's history will be spotless. There are strengths, there are weaknesses, there are mistakes, hits and misses, and whichever way you want to call it. Nobody has an absolutely perfect slate. So whether it's Indira Gandhi, Nehru, or anyone, the question arises whether by not assigning a place for them, for the funeral, whether that is a disrespect you're making or not. That's the question which we are debating. And that's where I'm saying Manmohan Singh is used as a convenient, either a target or somebody uses his shoulders to fire on the others to settle political points. And that is, to some extent, I think, that is the real disrespect to his legacy. If people, it's like, as I told you, an organization like Tata's may not give somebody who was, say, Rusi Modi or somebody that the same status as one of the Tatas, but he will be given. The Rusi Modi is not the correct example, but there would be people who would be given that status because if they've built one institution, organization, or whatever, they're given their due respect. But Congress has done that very selectively. In case of even with Manmohan Singh, may or may not, Rashid, that's a debatable point. But today, it's certainly debatable. Somebody may argue even Manmohan Singh has not given due credit to Narasimha Rao. He couldn't have done what he did as a finance minister without Narasimha Rao's support. Okay, those are separate issues. I'm keeping all of them aside. His has been a stellar career by any standards, whether you talk of global or national or anything. It's a fantastic life, fantastic career. He deserves all the respects, all the gun salutes and everything from us. But to make it a point as whether, because his funeral was happening in Nigombadh Ghat instead of somewhere along the lines of Rajghat, is not there. Does it take away from any of his greatness? Can it be seen as an insult? You mentioned Pranab Mukherjee, etc. I wouldn't, try to compare, but Pranab Mukherjee's case is also there. Sharmishta has tweeted again today to say that why even a CWC was not called for him, and they said they don't call it for the president, whereas a CWC was called for K.R. Narayanan. So the Congress is very, very selective and picky about whom they want to respect, how much they want to respect. The fact which you said, because Manmohan Singh didn't aspire to be prime minister, he became easy, whereas Pranab Mukherjee or somebody else was seen to be having that ambition, so they were treated differently. We shouldn't get into that. We as citizens, I think all of us individually respect him for what he was, what he has done. Everybody's legacy is mixed. There's everybody doesn't do all the right things at the right time.
Sure.
That's right there.
I think that's correct, that nobody is either a saint or a demon, and anybody who has spent 10 years in government is of course going to contribute to the evolution of the country. Before I come to Dr. Priyam, Rashid, very quickly, you had an interjection.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one part. Actually, Barka, a lot of comparison is thought to be made between PV Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh. PV Narasimha Rao, let's face it, Barka, he was a maverick. He played politics with Sonia Gandhi, with the internal Congress, and therefore his stock, so to say, fell particularly after 1996 defeat. This is not to justify what he put. Now, I want to tell you something which is very interesting, which some of you may find very interesting. Actually, Manmohan Singh was a beneficiary because Narasimha Rao experiment failed, because Sonia Gandhi, when after Rajiv Gandhi assassination, circumstances and all, because PV Narasimha Rao was brought on the basis of some kind of trust and faith, and he failed and faltered, or he could not live up to it. So Sonia Gandhi lost faith in all sort of full-time politicians, and she chose Manmohan Singh over Pranab Mukherjee, Arjun Singh, Shivraj Patel, and others. So he was actually a beneficiary. If PV Narasimha Rao had not done this kind of politics within the Congress and with the 10 Janpath, Manmohan Singh would not have arrived at the chair of Prime Minister.
Okay, but Dr. Priyam, we forget today that Sonia Gandhi may have chosen Manmohan Singh in his first term, but Manmohan Singh wins his second term as the declared prime ministerial candidate of the Congress party completely on his own brand, and after 2611, which many people believe would be a sort of complete, a game changer in terms of the political fortunes of the Congress. That time, the posters all said Singh is king. In another 4 years, it was the beginning of his political decline. That is the ruthlessness of realpolitik. The point I'm making is Manmohan Singh may have been chosen, but he did become his own political electoral brand, at least in 2009.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I would concede at least this much, that as an electoral brand of his own, I don't think he was able to mobilize the masses to come and turn a political way, something that you need in a grand electoral democracy of the first past the post system like India's. I would concede that he almost never became his own man. There remained criticisms of him having taken, quote unquote, the citizenship of Assam, the residents, so to say, to become a member of the upper house. Yeah. And many would often say that a person of his morals and standing should not have done this. These remain his critiques. For the record, on this show, I have been a critic of a lot of the economics that went on with the U-turn that India made. So don't think I've been blind about it. But I do think that the second term and the nuclear deal, that losing out of the compact with the left, I think that was a headstrong political moment. And had he been someone who needed to win elections of his own, I don't think that's a choice he would have made. Now, there, I think clearly the technocrat in him, looking at the guzzling energy needs of India, looking at the fact that environmental footprints would become important in an economy of the future, he was taking those decisions with the economy in mind. The shorter political cycles of elections, however, required the left to be on the side of the Congress. Now, that also meant that you had that infamous ordinance that Rahul Gandhi tore away. Remember, the blot on the political career remained the fact that Shibu Soren actually tendered his resignation to the PMO through a fax. Not many of us talk about it, but I do think that at that point of time, many of us felt that the silence of Prime Minister Manmohan was not that the morals of a political democracy like ours required. Our political democracy, of course, at that point of time, required economic liberalization. Economic liberalization was not a bad word. It was setting up the floors for a cleaner state-led bureaucratic system rather than allow bureaucratic corruption in the name of socialism and nationalization. So all of that is granted, but it also required a political morality. And I think there, his silence is something that has always intrigued me. And I don't want mediators to tell me that actually he felt this way in private, but in person he couldn't make a political statement. And even though The family did not go to Mrs. Sonia Gandhi's residence, and that can be taken as any kind of barometer. I am not one of those who believes in seeing who goes to whose birthdays, etc. I am a common citizen, a common woman at that. I have no access to any drawing rooms of power. But what I did require as a citizen was to be assured by my Prime Minister that this is politically immoral. And I think that silence was something that was also politically costly. Remember, had those prior statements come in, I think the statements from the CAG that led to the coal scam, this scam, that scam, many of those in retrospect, even the then CAG, Vinod Rai, is not willing to own up what happened to the notional gains, what exactly was the coal scam. So political statement making was clearly something that there was a big gap. He needed to take the politically moral stands. Many of us, through people like Rashid and others, would believe that, okay, he had political morality. We never heard those statements. And that has ultimately cost the Congress party. Remember, there was also someone else in the trio. We've named Manmohan Singh. We've named Mantek Singh Ahluwalia. There was a Sheila Dikshit who had a Sikh image as a Delhi woman chief minister. She was the wife of a technocrat trained in the PMO. She became a mass leader. And this was a trio. The way she led the governance, even now, if you go to the streets of this city, people will tell you she was one of the best chief ministers we had. But look at the way the Aam Aadmi Party, in popular parlance, आके कांग्रेस पार्टी की धुलाई कर दी. और बाद में अरविंद केजरीवाल ने शीला जी से माफी भी मांग ली, and we saw pictures of Bonomi, etc. The drawing rooms that I never get to see. Many others on this panel are fortunate. I don't get to see those drawing rooms. But I think as citizens, what we need from Manmohan Singh, who's now not with us, but also from all our political leaders, is statements on what political morality is. Remember, democracy is something where citizens exercise their virtue in voting. That's where I see the shortcomings in the political leader that should have been Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Yeah, I think you've said that very aptly. I can't think of much to disagree with there. His silence, Shubrajta, was always puzzling, especially when you juxtapose it with the fact that he did not actually become aggressive with his critics. And that is a rare quality in Indian politics, in any party. I was among journalists who was quite critical of him, and I didn't see any hostility from him, and I find the same feedback from most journalists. And like I said, that's quite rare for politicians in any party. I'm not making a point about parties. So when you juxtapose that with his silence, it becomes even more bewildering. Last thoughts, Shubrajta, before we close.
Barkha, I think Manisha ji has really put things in perspective as to why this silence was deafening, and the fact that despite the tall leadership that Manmohan Singh ji gave, why these are gray areas that need to be, I don't think need to be investigated or talked of, but need to be cognizant of, especially when it comes to people having access to the personal drawing rooms of the Gandhi family or Mr. Manmohan Singh. As a youngster, for me, when India was erupting with these, the spectrum scam, the 2G spectrum scam, or the Commonwealth Games scandal, or when it was, all the social issues of communal tension and rural distress, these were issues where I really, really wanted my Prime Minister at that point in time to get up and give me a statement. And everything need not be aggressive. Everything need not be in your face, dishing the opponents. It could have been a simple statement of, please be hopeful, I'm on the job, I'm doing my bit. But the kind of silence that Manmohan Singh ji had at that point in time, the public posturing of it went out in a pretty bad light. He was seen as a weak prime minister. He might have been a very strong leader, and he for sure is. But the public posturing, I think, and which is most important in an electoral democracy, especially when you are going to have, elections every 5 years, and you are supposed to address political rallies. You might not be that personality to address political rallies, but your body language should be such that your karyakartas could have gone out and fought on your behalf. This did not come from the Prime Minister, from the then Prime Minister. However, I think most of these conversations that we are having today, we are having between people who do not belong, none of us belong to the Congress party. We might feel empathetic towards the Congress party or sympathetic towards them, but we are not Congress people. Please tell me, if Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy was venerated by their own, by his own, political party in question. However much of a bonhomie Sonia ji and Manmohan ji would have shared, if Rahul Gandhi goes out and tears that ordinance, and whatever reasons there might be, this was a direct assault on the then prime ministerial position. It cannot be seen anything other than that. It was an upfront attack on on a constitutional post. And today, these are the very same people who talk about, safeguarding the constitution and the values enshrined in it. So yes, India needs to remember Dr. Manmohan Singh, but this lesson cannot come from the Congress party. For sure, it cannot come from Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who suddenly finds a guide and mentor in Manmohan Singh. Nobody is going to buy that argument. So I think all consensus Indians, aware Indians, not only venerate Dr. Manmohan Singh, but would remember his legacy with all the fondness and with all the respect that he truly deserves. And I think I would just want, I wish, political parties don't politicize this matter any further.
We'll leave it there. The debate will carry on, and history will have the last word. I think one thing that Dr. Manmohan Singh felt, and I still remember this statement, he said, given the compulsions of coalition politics, I did the best I can. And I think that is what he genuinely believed in framing his own report card. He believed that he tried his best. And I think that is what anybody in a lifetime can hope to do. Try your best. Of course, there will be flaws, shortcomings, things he could have and should have done differently. I think we can respect somebody and also acknowledge that. And that is what makes a complete individual. Nobody is perfect. Dr. Singh wasn't, but that his impact on India was significant, was profound, is also something I think that we can agree on. Thank you so much, Rashid Kidwai, Sandeep Ghosh, Dr. Manisha Priyam, and Shubrashta. And to our audience, thanks as ever. See you soon.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.